My name's Jamie Weller. I served in the Royal Navy.
Kevin Fegan, 20-year veteran.
I'm Restance. My dad's an Army veteran.
Mark Howell, 3-5 Engineer Regiment, Royal Corps of Engineers.
Timothy Seeley, Royal Regiment Artillery, Nuclear Missiles.
Van Roy Heflin Barrett, known as Baz, 24 years in the Staffordshire Regiment.
Laura Tipper, members of my family served in the Irish Fusiliers and the RAF.
Matt Whiteman, 14 years, 1st Battalion, the Duke of Wellington's Regiment.
Steve Cocaine, Royal Artillery from 1985, medically discharged in 1992.
I am Scott Yarrington. I served in the 1st Battalion, Irish Guards.
I'm Rachel Yarrington and I'm married to Scott.
Pull up a sandbag and rest a while in this precious place, both sober and wild.
Your mission is to form a company to support each other in the telling of your stories.
You are people who live on the edges of society.
You have as many stories to share in your community as there are grains of sand. Welcome
To the islands! Consider it a base, a camp, a treatment. A sort of residential where people search for treasure known as recovery and to find your new identities.
Time out from the pressures of living in a world that can, at times, seem very unforgiving.
This is not reality TV. This is the real thing.
Here you will share your stories of land, air and sea, of the military and your families.
Some of those stories belong to you. Others belong to members of your community who cannot be here with us today.
During your stay, you'll each be given an island name. This is unique to you. No two are the same.
Check your mobile phones. There you will find your name by who you will be known, according to whose stories you will tell.
Introduce yourself and say hello. Get to know each other and all will be well.
Do you reckon there's any hunting on this island?
Yeah, you run off ahead and we'll take shots at you.
I don't know what I'm doing here.
We're not listening, they said recovery.
Recovery from what? Nothing wrong with me?
Apparently, it's for your own good.
Just remember, when they ask, your worst day is every day.
A sort of residential, they said.
For how long?
Until you find your identity.
What are you talking about? I'm a squatter.
Was a squad.
Once a squatty, always a
Congo!
Army!
Navy!
Navy! Air Force! What about the Marines?
Boonettes! We're not all squaddies.
Some of us are wives.
Some of us are daughters.
Some of us are friends.
Has anyone encountered the locals?
The indigenous population.
You mean the civvies?
What are they like?
Different.
They look like us.
But they're not like us. People on the island, they speak a different language than us. They have different rules, different values, different customs, different traditions. It's a different culture.
I went to a supermarket. There was a sign, self-serve. So I helped myself and walked out with my bags full. And got arrested for shoplifting.
I never realised how expensive it was to be a civic. It was a shock. In the military, everything's paid for.
I went into education. I was more scared of writing a 10,000 word essay than I was being shot at.
I live in a camouflage caravan in the woods.
I'm green through and through. I don't feel normal with civvies. My wife knows. When she married me, she married the army.
My wife's still waiting for her medal.
Coming out in Civvy Street, it's not being an operational tour, but without the support.
Well, it sure as hell beats being shot at.
But We're not PC like civvies. A shit better people than most civvies.
8 months ago, on a Thursday afternoon, 4:30 p.m, I found myself out on the ledge, outside the office where I was working, ready to jump. I was being man-managed, and I wasn't happy with my work. I felt worthless.
During your stay on the island, it is essential to engage with each other in group therapy.
Don't worry, you can use your sandbags as security blankets.
Our collective experiences will overcome individual fears, but remember, you cannot bullshit your peers.
This will hurt a lot. Be warned, there will be tears, and at times we may lose the plot. But there will also be laughter, and afterwards we'll have the strength to persevere.
The first step to recovery is to consider your childhood, the hate and the love, the bad and the good.
There are 5 daughters in our family. I'm the second from youngest. We moved around a lot. I'm the North Allerton daughter. My dad's stag wasn't around much growing up. I remember, as a little girl, going to the seaside with him to Weston-super-Mare. We were walking down a side street.
Where's that bloody Lambrand Museum?
Are we lost?
Keep up, Bambi!
Look at all the pretty houses, all different colours. Why are they boarded up? Wait for me, Dad. Why are you marching?
Where's my rifle? I don't have my bloody rifle! Get out! Roll! Observe! Fire!
I didn't know what to do. I just stood and cried until someone came. Years later, Dad explained in a flashback. He thought he was back on patrol in the streets of Northern Ireland.
You learn
to pick yourselves up, dust yourselves down, and move on.
Dad was in the army. We travelled around the world. I still remember the monkeys in the garden in Singapore. In Germany, the military police arrested him for beating up on me mum. As a child, he used to jump in the middle of their arguments to stop them fighting. They split up when he left the army. I was 13. Mum was a single parent. She used to thrash me with a dog chain. There was lots of running away, children's homes. I had a brutal upbringing. I don't remember it at all. I was given injections of Valium at the age of 9 and 13. It affects your memory.
Shell was in kindergarten in Cyprus when the Turkish army invaded in 1974. The base was hit by naval gunfire and there was an air raid.
We're running towards a helicopter with my mum. There's tracers flying. We're being shot at. I see a plane being brought down in flames. We're screaming and crying. Dad has to stay and fight.
A few years later, Shell's dad was posted to Belfast.
A car bomb explodes and Dad jumps on top of me. I see dead bodies. I see hatred.
By the age of 7, Shell had been in 2 war zones.
Dad used to make me polish his boots.
We were always told, one day, you'll be sent for. Mum and Dad left me and my brother, aged 1 and 2, with our grandma in Jamaica, so they could come to work in England. They were part of the Windrush generation. Growing up in Jamaica, the UK was seen as the mother country. If we were told the Queen was visiting, we'd run outside, look in the sky for a plane and waved to her. My parents came here as British citizens, but by the time they sent for us, I was 8 years old. Jamaica had got its independence. So me and my brother came to Coventry as Jamaican citizens. Dad was a difficult man, and me and my brother were the only two black kids in the school. So I quickly got used to beatings and fighting. I left school at 50 with no qualification, but I was rugby captain. I went to enlist. Dad wouldn't sign the forms, but Mum did, and the local shopkeeper. Playing rugby saved me. When I went to join the British Army with a Jamaican passport, they said I couldn't travel with the Army rugby team from Gibraltar to Morocco without a British passport, which they refused me. When that South African athlete, Zola Blood, was granted British citizenship to compete in the Olympics, I applied again, and this time I was accepted. Where do I belong? I used to think I knew. I was awarded an MBE for services to further education of young people. But what with the Windrush scandal recently and Brexit?
Why would anyone in their right mind join the Army, Navy, Air Force, where to live or die is no longer your choice?
None of my family were in the armed forces. When I was a child, I loved building model aircraft such as the Sea Harrier. My dream was to work on an aircraft carrier. I enlisted into the Royal Navy in 1988, aged 17 years old. I joined the Fleet Air Arm and studied weapons electrical engineering. I came top out of 120 guys in training. I was posted to an airbase. 3 months in, aged 19, I started to go blind. On one occasion, I drove up the wrong way of a dual carriageway. I told the Navy doctors, and they put me on reduced duties. They then sent me to a specialist.
I'm sorry, there's nothing more that we can do. Your naval career is over.
My dream of working on an aircraft carrier never happened. That night, I thought about stealing a jet and flying away. I was medically discharged. My nan said to me I'd never cope with blindness. But I went to Blind Veterans UK and they taught me how to cope. I wasn't going to give in to blindness because that's the way military folk are. I went to university and I got a maths degree. I studied finance. Nearly 30 years on, I have a wife and children. I've competed in the Invictus Games and I've carried the Olympic torch. My little girl was impressed.
Now you can see where you're running, Daddy.
My nan was wrong. The things I've done, I've nailed it. I manage my blindness it doesn't manage me. I have a little help from my guide dog. This is my guide dog, Philip.
My dad was in the army for a while. Age 19, I found myself up in court with my mates.
You stand accused from stealing guns from an acquaintance, and this court finds you guilty as charged.
Under normal circumstances, you'll be going to prison with your co-accused.
However, your legal representative has informed me that you've recently enlisted in the British Army.
On this occasion, I have decided that, rather than serve a prison sentence at Her Majesty's pleasure, it is in the best interest of the Crown for you to fight for your country.
Thank you, Your Honour. Sir, I'll do my best.
I lived the military life. I didn't know anything else. My great uncle won the Victoria Cross. As a teenager, my granddad came to visit me in Germany. And my dad told me to go back on the coach to Birmingham with him and enrol on some government scheme. I didn't know Birmingham. I didn't know Civvy Street. I didn't even know the language.
Fancy a couple of apps?
I went bright red because I thought he meant breasts.
Never mind what your dad says. I think you should join the RAF cadets. I was in the RAF during the war. Best times in my life.
I enjoyed the training because I was a pad brat. At the age of 12, I could fire a rifle, strip it down and put it back together again. I joined the Royal Green Jackets. I enjoyed the training, apart from the bullying. I fought back, but the older guys beat me.
Apparently, the Upper Hebrides is a nice place to fire your weapon.
My father was a brutal man. I was in the Army Cadets, but he told me I wasn't tough enough to be a soldier. The training was brutal. You see, they have to try and get rid of the weak links. If one of your group fail, you all fail. One of these lads that kept failing, they gave him a regimental bath. They filled the bath up with piss, shit, ashtrays, waste bins full of rubbish and stuff and threw him in it. Failure for me wasn't an option. I couldn't go back to my old man. I had nowhere else to go. The army bred a gang mentality. Us against the world. Us against other units. Us against civvies. Can you imagine what we thought of civvies in other countries when we were bred to hate our own kind? That's what it was like in Northern Ireland. I hated them as much as they hated me, because that's what I'd been taught.
The training makes you feel invincible.
Life at home was harder than training, so there was no going back for me. I struggled at first with who do I trust? Because of the racism, I had to work harder than them just to stay afloat. The officer in charge, he didn't want black people in the guards, so he insisted on calling me coon. People like that, they just want you to fail. And I was never going to be returned to unit. I went on every training course available. You're always learning something in the army. By the age of 24, I was a sergeant in charge of a platoon in Northern Ireland. You need rank in the army to be able to express yourself.
When I enlisted in the RAF, it was still illegal to serve as an openly gay person. I served as a personnel officer for 18 years, doing shit nobody else wanted to do. I was too scared to tell anyone, for the sake of losing my job and the respect of my peers. I used to sneak a girlfriend into the officers' mess. I did confess my sexuality to a couple of close friends, after a few too many drinks. My father was in the RAF. I was a pad brat, but I was sent to boarding school. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I joined the RAF. Being an officer and travelling around every couple of years appealed. I was medically discharged in 2017. I suffered a ruptured aneurysm in my brain. I'm known as the gay one whose brain has fallen out with her. It should never have happened. I blame the medics for not diagnosing the high blood pressure that caused it. I have ongoing brain training. I feel like my brain doesn't like me very much, but I get on with it. I'm happy to be alive.
I was a funeral director in the family business. I was 32 years old when I joined the Royal Engineers. I was a reservist first, and then I volunteered to be attached to a regular regiment. My grandfather was a Tommy, so I've always kept myself fit, trained and ready for combat.
I knew the nutter I had married really well, but when he said
I volunteered for active service.
newlyweds normally spend their first year together having fun, playing house, shagging and planning their future. Instead, I was having to sort a power of attorney, a will, funeral requests and sharing in for our last few weeks together with Her Majesty.
You only married me for my life insurance.
What is it exactly you were doing out there?
Soldiering.
What kind of soldiering?
You know.
No, I don't know. Will you be fighting?
Yeah, I'll be on the front line.
Fighting?
Yes, fighting!
I didn't want him to think he'd married a pathetic wimp of a woman, so I steeled myself for our last night together. I taxed him and his soldier mates back to their barracks. I resent sharing him until we retired to his room. As thousands of women have known before me, I knew I wanted to give him one last thing before he goes off to war. Great sex that he'll remember forever. In the morning, we say our goodbyes, and I drive away. My heart in my stomach, tears streaming down my cheeks. I pull over and sob my heart out.
Joining the British Army as a Pakistani Muslim didn't sit very well with my family. I was told, don't bother coming back to this household. My father came here in the 80s. I was born here. Life in Birmingham didn't offer me much, and I wanted to try something unconventional and challenging it. I'm currently assigned to 2-4 Commando, Royal Engineers. Yes, the Army appealed to me because it is exciting and adventurous, and you're part of a team. The Army has brought out the best in me, both physically and mentally, and my family have witnessed those changes. My family are proud of me. I was recently awarded an MBE for my work with young people from my community, especially around self-image. My father accompanied me to the palace. I'm prepared to stand at army information stalls and argue that it is compatible to be a practicing Muslim and a British soldier. I've been asked how I'd feel if I was deployed to Afghanistan or Pakistan. In my faith, we're judged by the intentions behind our actions, and I know I would be there to protect life.
Who's that? He's no veteran, that's for sure.
That's the future.
The optimism of youth.
Do you think he's seen any active service?
Not yet. Do you think he'll end up on the island, like us?
Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. It's like a chorus of voices within your head, echoes of full-on experience of conflict that come back to haunt you.
I think one thing.
PTSD thinks another.
I'm the conscious memory.
We're the subconscious. What's really going on in your psyche?
I'm the story I tell myself about what happened to me.
We're the subtext, the story within the story of what really happened to you.
My first day at war, our first job. We crash into our tent and grab our body armour weapons, ammo and day sack. You could smell the fear and adrenaline in a delicious anticipation. Our first real drive out into a war zone, and on camera to boot. Seeing all this on camera was just amazing. You can see all the rounds and flares as if in a slow motion. We push out into the fields. We have a few hundred feet of poppy fields to cross. The harvest finished about a week ago. To our right is a compound that we must now search now that it's been isolated. To our front is a tree line split by an irrigation ditch, and an infantry call sign in a fire position to our left. There are open fields to our rear, so a few of us turn this way to face any threat. The cracks of small arms fire break the sound barrier above our heads. We wriggle onto our belt buckles and digging with our eyelids, and engage an enemy that we cannot see. Bullets make two sounds. A loud crack and whiz if they are within 2 centimetres of you, and a loud vroom if they are within 30 centimetres of you. After what seems like an eternity, but it's probably only about 10 minutes since the start of contact, a few rounds detonate on the Taliban positions. A resounding cheer from a side! Contact is broken!
On a typical day, we wake up in a cold sweat. We need to get up. We need to nip this in the bud. We tell ourselves, just do it now! We get up. We need to wash. We tell ourselves, just do it now! You need to eat. We tell ourselves, just do it now! We avoid crowds. If we have to go on a public bus, we take a book on with us to keep ourselves to ourselves. We find it difficult going past a pub.
I was a reservist. I volunteered for active service. Every time I put that uniform on, I become a different human being. In the Royal Engineers, we'd be building a base one day, building a bridge one day, and then a firefight the next. We once built a base in just 4 days. Seeing dead bodies never bothered me. I was used to that being in the funeral trade. They once wanted me to clean up the corpses, but I wanted frontline soldiering. Afghan was a different war to Iraq. It was a real fighting war. And if you're soft, you'll die. You will do anything to survive. Even when the guys around you are getting killed, you just deal with it. Your weapon is your life. It goes everywhere with you at all times. You live with it, you clean it, you respect it, you even sleep with it in your DOS bag. I was a machine gunner. I had this big fuck-off machine gun, belt-fed ammunition. It's an adrenaline rush. Firefights become like a drug.
As a reservist, after active service, we go back to civvy life for 6 months. But we can't turn off that aggression. We've nowhere to channel it. Or either bursting into tears or smashing up. In 2012, we came back from Afghan. We were at home watching TV, what we can only describe as being dipped in water. It started at our feet, went through our body, and all the way up to our head, causing blinding headaches. It's not an experience we had at war. It was pure aggression. That night, we put our wife in hospital. Had our daughter not come in, we would have killed her. We went straight round to the police and handed ourselves in. Our wife left us, and we lost our daughter for years. We turned to alcohol and prescription drugs. We were drinking 3 or 4 bottles before lunch. We wanted to die. We felt like we weren't fighting to suicide. We'd done it a couple of times. We weren't eating or washing. We were having terrible nightmares and dreams. We were shitting and pissing ourselves. We hit rock bottom. We were still serving soldier at the time. A civvy doctor discharged us as being medically unfit, suffering from PTSD. We can only get help as a veteran, not as a serving soldier. Combat kills all emotion. We felt dehumanised and struggling to get back our humanity. We were an empty shell, and that's when we started to fight back.
There's this idea that aggressive individuals should join the armed forces as a way of satiating that aggression. Truth is, when this aggression is unleashed, it feeds on itself and grows out of control into a warrior. The problems start when these warriors return home and there's nowhere for that aggression to go, other than arming themselves or others around them. Perversely, I miss it. If I could go back, I would, but I'm too old now. I'm 46, but I'm still fit. But I have to admit, I loved it, but it cost me my relationships.
I hated that powdered milk in the army, especially at breakfast time. We never used to get fresh milk. We were the first infantry unit to do 2 years in Northern Ireland. We were posted to Derry, and the patrols used to go out early in the morning, just after the milk run on the estate. In those days, the Land Rovers had no doors on, so we just cruised down the street, pulled into neutral, and one of the lads used to jump out and nip the fresh milk bottles on the doorstep. After we'd used them all, we'd wash them and put back on that doorstep. That night, the locals would make petrol bombs out of them and throw them at us. Burr was only himself when he was with his band of brothers. One day, on patrol, he stepped over a landmine. His mate following behind him stepped on it. Afterwards, he was told to clean his poncho and suck it up, which he did for 34 years. A war started on discharge. He had a rope around a tree. He was preparing to jump. The tree was near junction 12 on the M6. A lorry driver saw him, pulled over and ran over to help. He couldn't speak a word of English, but somehow he persuaded me to stand down. Bear wears an elastic band around his wrist. When his anxiety triggers, he pulls it, stretching it to the point of nearly snapping, and releases it so he gets a short, sharp pain. He has a Vic Sinex in his pocket, so that when he smells petrol that reminds him of bad memories, he inhales it so he forgets them. He has a little brown bear in his pocket to remind him what he's really like inside.
I used to see the army as a safety net. Ironic, really. I was the only one injured. I was on patrol in Afghanistan in 2010, just outside the green zone. I'd walked over the spot before, on the ridge, overlooking the road. This time, I stepped on IED and landed 50 metres away. I lost both legs above the knee and multiple scarring. Man down! I radioed in, like it wasn't me. I felt no pain until they applied the tourniquets. I was conscious throughout. I was picked up by a medic on a quad bike and taken back to the patrol base and onto a helicopter where I was put to sleep.
It was hard at first because of the rehab.
2.5 years.
We knew each other at school as teenagers.
I met River on Facebook not long after I was injured.
We got married.
I see a psychiatrist every 2 weeks. I have my prosthetics now. Been wheelchair free for 2 years. I took part in the Invictus Games in 2017.
We have a little boy with a little help from IVF.
I do talks. I found I'm quite good at it. Sometimes to school children. I don't pull any punches when they ask for the gory details. I have a message of sorts. Take every opportunity while you can. Don't leave it until later.
I had a right laugh in the hospital. I had a lot of time to reflect in the hospital.
I'm not proud of some of the things I've done.
We're doing a job that we've been trained to do. It's not for us to judge the rights and wrongs.
I was an intelligence officer for 8 years. One of our tricks for recruiting informers was to stage a car accident. We deliberately ram into the side of a car of a known terrorist.
Oh no! We're so sorry. Please let us pay for the damage. No need to involve the police. We've got lots of cash.
There was a lot of unemployment. People living on the brew. Secretly, we'd be taking pictures of him accepting cash. Then, a few weeks later, we'd pay him a visit in full British Army uniform.
Hello! Do you remember us? We're from a large, rich, powerful organisation known as the British Army. And we're here to show you some photographs.
If he didn't agree to work for us as an informer, we'd threaten to circulate the photographs along with our identities as British soldiers.
And you know the penalties for accepting handouts from the Brits.
My car broke down once in a hostile area of Belfast. I was in civvies, and I knew it was only be a matter of minutes before I'd be spotted and identified as a British soldier. There was a rule, in an emergency, we were allowed to take over any house. The first door I knock on, a young couple with a baby answer. This is a British Army house takeover. You need to call the IUC immediately and have me picked up. It's a very risky situation for them. If they call the police, they could be killed by their own kind. If they don't call the police, I will be found and executed. Fortunately for me, they call the IUC, and we've remained friends ever since. I was at a pub in Stoke recently when this Irish guy recognises me from Northern Ireland. He comes over. You won't believe this! I'm dating an Irish woman at the moment!
Right, right.
Oh my God, I'm not falling.
One, two, three, four. Down the hatch, let's have some more. Legless, 5, 6, 7, 8. All the bars are open late. Legless.
Blow our brains on special brew, say pints of dirty beer. Drive the nightmares from our heads and overcome our fears.
1, 2, 3, 4. Tell the wives we're off to war.
Legless.
5, 6, 7, 8. Grab your gun and trust your mate. Legless.
We drink under the table, we drink the bars all dry. If the bullets are on to kill us first, we'll drink until we die.
1, 2, 3, 4. Lucky us came back from war. Legless. 5, 6, 7, 8. IEDs have killed our mates. We've drunk ourselves into oblivion. We've broken all the regs. We've woken up with hangovers. Woke up without our legs. 1, 2, 3, 4. Who the fuck is keeping score? Legless. 5, 6, 7, 8. What the fuck to celebrate? 5, 6, 7, 8. What the fuck to celebrate? 5, 6, 7, 8. What the fuck to celebrate? Legless. 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 Legless.
been an army wife all me life. 16 and pregnant to me soldier boyfriend John. We got married and had our daughter Marion. John was sent on a 6-month tour of Northern Ireland. I was at a friend's house when I got the knock at the door.
Your husband's been injured in a bomb explosion. We can send you out to hospital to see him.
I walk onto the ward.
There's a live view window into his room.
I can see he's in a bad way. Alive but not conscious.
Then he dies. He was a big man, 6'4" and 22 years old.
I was 17 and a half with a small baby. I was a cleaner in the naffy. My own mum phoned the army and told them not to give me an army pension because she said I'd killed him. She stole John's Northern Ireland medal.
Her daughter from her first marriage to John. She married a soldier.
He was abusive! My daughter had bipolar. She had issues about her dad even though she never knew him.
She had the same tattoo on her back that her dad had on his hand.
I had trained as a counsellor. One of my clients was just like my daughter. I had to give up work when she committed suicide. My evil mum took over the funeral and
Why would she do that?
I'm diagnosed with PTSD.
Multiple complex traumas.
I'm a people pleaser really, but somehow I end up fighting everybody.
The army like you to keep domestic problems indoors for the husband's sake.
I'm a survivor.
Her last soldier husband wasn't physically abusive.
I was so angry at him for accepting redundancy and taking away my identity as an army wife.
Shell worked for the NHS ambulance services as a driver. At first, he did blue lights work, frontline service.
You wouldn't believe some of the things he has seen.
A 10-year-old boy accidentally hung himself playing some kind of choking game with his mates.
In Bosnia, I saw a little Muslim Down syndrome girl. She'd been crucified to a barn door.
At least in the ambulance service.
You get debriefings after trauma.
Shell works on pavement transport now.
They let him turn down jobs if he needs to.
In Northern Ireland, my mate Richard blew his brains out in front of me. His blood was on my uniform. It was on my hands. Because I wasn't in the same company as him, I didn't get no counselling.
He checks under the ambulance before he sets off. He drives around the car park twice, looking for escape routes, sniper positions, and potential ambush points.
What's in the bin?
Who's in
In
the
the tower
tower block?
Absence of the normal, presence of the abnormal.
I'm on patrol in a park in Strabane. All of a sudden my earpiece screams at me to stop. He's picked up some electronic device. All the lads are shouting me for stopping. Then they realise I've stood on an IED. They run and hide. Leave me alone here with this bomb. I'm pissing myself. I'm shitting myself. I'm vomiting. I'm crying. All the locals are shouting abuse at me. Throwing rocks, bottles, anything they can get their hands on. Shouting, "Die, you Brit bastard, die!" I stand perfectly still for 3 hours until bomb disposal come and defuse it.
They teach you, when the ball drops, that's your past.
Leave it there and move on.
I was 21 in the early 80s. It was the time of Bobby Sands MP and the hunger strikes. There was fierce rioting. When one of their boys died, you could hear the call to arms by the community. When Bobby Sands died, there was 100,000 people at his funeral, all flying their black flags. Surely all of these people couldn't be terrorists. There must be something more to this. Sometimes we were sent out on hot pursuits of known players. We were dispatched to a mobile home to make an arrest. Drop your weapon or I'll blow your fucking head off! I could see his family huddled behind him in the living room staring at me. I shouldn't have been allowed on the streets. I'm living in Corby and my flat's been raided by the local smackhead. I know it is right enough and decide to pay him a visit, even though I've been an addict myself. I break into his house. I can see his family huddled behind him in the living room staring at me. Then suddenly his father runs at me. I hit him over the head with a hammer. I'm lucky I didn't kill his father that day with a hammer. Lucky too, the judge gives me a suspended sentence. But I can't help thinking it was okay to push that rifle in that guy's face in front of his family in Northern Ireland. But it wasn't okay for me to protect my home and take a hammer to those bastards. The judge sends me to anger management.
So what is it, do you think, Rob, that makes you so angry?
People like you. I've no time for civvy bastards telling me what to do.
Have you tried writing things down? It's very therapeutic.
Do you realise who I am? I fought for you, shites. My mother said I was just like my father, and fair enough, she was right. I was in my late 40s before I started to see things differently. I decided to join a poetry group, as poetry has a much better way of expressing yourself than violence. I started to read up on Irish history. Went to a chat by a former SAS guy called Ben Griffin about his experiences in Northern Ireland, and it really changed me. I've been back to Northern Ireland and I've met up with some of the IRA lads that we were fighting in the 80s. We've given chats together in the spirit of reconciliation.
What are you doing?
Suicide bag.
What's in there?
You know, rope, tape, final letter home to loved ones. That sort of thing.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Trauma will not be drawn into a beauty contest. It is not a competition or a test of who has the worst PTSD. Some of us rely on family and friends. Some of us end up facing a wall like depressed chickens, while others go cross-dressing at weekends. We make the best of our mistakes because death is the final curtain we all must make.
Hold on! Did she just say cross-dressing?
We don't want any bad press. Let's not give the wrong impression.
Cross-dressing! Come on! Come on, Freddie!
Oh, we ain't
Come on! Hey! Hey! Cross-dressing! Come on!
We love the man in uniform, pulling on the style, pulling on the bad rest, laughing on the spell. We watch them pop, keep our pants, a parade, rank and file.
I say they are all military men, so things all change and now they swap their suits for sequins and come out as sweet transvestites. Dressing up, dressing down, hit the lights, rock the town. Dressing up, dressing down, party folks are leaving down. And these soldiers say, don't forget Marines, all their less behavior, all dressed up as queens. Like to eat their country, dressing in their jeans. Tractors on their letters, rifles, buckle bags. Jeans and red car, marking contact. We all love the man in uniform, especially when he's rang. Dressing up, dressing down, across the line in America.
military a long time ago. I asked the padre for advice. He said either go out with your power person and get hammered, or sign up and go out again.
Over 30 years later, Bear is diagnosed with PTSD and stands with his daughter before a committee deciding on his pension.
Thank you for allowing me to present my testimony. You have met Bear, a veteran who served in the armed forces in the 1980s. To you, he's just another case on your desk, another soldier looking for something he may be entitled to, depending on your decision. The man I knew since the day that I was born was a former soldier, a fearless, angry, broken man who could not detach from the army, from war, with no sense of belonging to a family that wasn't his platoon. As a 10-year-old girl, I remember being desperate for a daddy who would be there for me at school sports day. Instead, I found him at the pub, or lying awake at night, listening to his violent nightmares. As a teenager, I could not understand why my dad was so dysfunctional, regimented and disengaged from life. At 19, my best friend died.
Man up, carry on with the mission.
He was a shell of a man who seemed to feel no pain. In 2012, I met my father for the first time on a combat session. Since then, I've picked this brave man up when he's fallen and cleaned the blood from the walls when flashbacks have paralysed him. I've consoled my mother, who's been at her wit's end, struggling with over 30 years of marriage, feeling like she'd failed him as a wife. I don't think anyone can truly understand what it must be like to be a soldier, stripped of normal human feelings, brainwashed into being men of war. The damage caused by PTSD is crippling, not only to the person suffering, but also to their families. I'm proud to be my father's daughter. He's a man who's had the courage to rebuild his life, to become a husband again, a father, and a human being. No longer the monster I remember as a little girl. I ask you not to consider him another case in your filing cabinet, but to treat this case with the dignity it deserves. And maybe, together, we can make a difference to these unseen wounded men that we have amongst us.
There's always been war. It's naive to think it won't happen again.
We've been here before. No one escaped the suffering, the pain, neither civilian nor soldier.
This is the human landscape. The earth itself is bipolar, and we are little more than amoeba with a bolted-on brain.
Until we evolve into a greater, more noble ape who resolves to break the chain. This island will continue to attack its neighbours or be invaded from the mainland.
The island can be strange, dark, at times. It's like we can't go on.
But we must go on.
The island can be a wondrous place, follow meandering rivers, enjoying lush valleys and magnificent mountains, walking through magical forests and engaging with heritage and culture and talking to the people.
Experience the land, air and sea, not as members of the armed forces, but as human beings, enjoying the scenery and sharing the island's resources.
This is a beautiful beach, overshadowed by palm trees.
The sand is gentle on your feet. The water is warm and clear. The air is fresh and healthy.
Yeah, I could live here.
Really?
Why not?
I could plant a garden.
I could sit and write poetry or paint.
I could play music and dance.
I could grow mangoes.
I could make the finest wine.
I could construct a home.
I can start a family.
It doesn't always have to be destruction, does it?
We can tell ourselves a different story.
We have been there for each other.
Take what we've learned.
And use it wisely on the island.
We have identities as veterans in our families.
We have started our reparation, which is a good call for celebration.
This is where we live. Not just with our peers, but with other
Islanders.
If we can settle here, our children will mix and put down the roots, and our children's children will bear the fruits of our courage and recovery.
We have come to realise that this is an island of opportunity.
It has been quite an amazing experience for me. I tell everybody I'm nearly 65, they don't believe me. But the brain doesn't work as quickly as it does, so learning the script has taken something. But it has been a massive challenge, and I've loved every minute of it. And I'll recommend it to anyone.
I'll go with Baz.
This project has just been so emotional and hard, but I am so proud of all these men and women stood here because they have done amazing.
When you leave the army, you struggle for a while to actually know what you missed, and it's family, that bond. And over the last 6 weeks, I've gained that with these lot.
For me, it's about sharing and giving voice to the hidden injuries that conflict brings, and also it's to teach my dog some new skills.
I'm rapidly becoming something of a Bravo veteran as well as an Army veteran, and what's on this stage in front of you is nothing short of a bunch of incredible people that I'm so proud to be part of.
It is an absolute privilege to be involved in a piece of theatre that doesn't hopefully just entertain, but changes lives.
We've only been together as a company for 6 weeks, and I will leave here once this is all over with some lifelong friends.
Yeah, it's been fantastic working with all these new actors. But on a serious point, it showcases hidden and physical injuries and illnesses that we all have, and we need to show more of it.
Scott Yarrington. I'd just like to say that it's been absolutely amazing experience, and I think my wife nailed it.
I'm Rachel Yarrington. It's just been an honour and a privilege to tell these stories, and I wouldn't have had that experience if it wasn't for Bravo 22 Company, so thank you very much.
Well.